Okay, we're now moving on to Unit 6, which is caring for individuals and families. So this will be Unit 6, Lesson 1.
Hey guys, welcome back to Unit 6, Caring for Individuals and Families, Lesson 1, Stages of Child Development. So our learning goals for this lesson will be to identify the stages of child development. So human development begins at conception. The transformation of cells through a unique genetic path forms the physical makeup and individual traits of the child. And growth and development begin to be measured and described at birth. Developments, as we have explored in the previous units, can be physical, mental, intellectual, emotional, and social. So at each stage, children learn and master various skills and abilities which are known as developmental tasks, which are essentially the rate of development that are individual, and each stage being unique for each individual. And this development occurs in sequence. These areas of development, such as physical and emotional, are all interconnected and related. For example, a child may be ready to do something physically, but not emotionally. So therefore, the feeling of security is extremely crucial. So what exactly are the developmental stages? These are periods of growth and change followed by periods of stability. So life can be divided into stages in which growth and development are fairly predictable. So infants, toddlers, preschoolers, and school-age children are the developmental stages that we are going to be exploring. First, we're going to start with infants. So from birth to the end of the first year, the baby's growth and development are more rapid than at any other stage in life. These children are known as infants. Socially, they can distinguish between familiar and unfamiliar faces. Physically, they begin to gain control of their senses. They focus on sight, they recognize voices, they experience taste, they're able to feel their touches, and they may be able to walk. And they also experience hand-to-eye coordination. Emotionally, infants begin to develop trust with their caregivers, and the feelings of love are important for the baby to thrive. And intellectually, they learn things which are permanent. And babies begin to understand that things continue to exist even when not in sight. So now we're going to be looking at toddlers. So toddlers are from about 1 to 3 years, and it's marked by rapid changes in movement and communication. Intellectually, they begin to acquire language and spatial concepts, and a cause and effect relationships are learned, and concepts such as bigger and smaller are also learned. So emotionally, toddlers begin to develop a sense of themselves. They begin to get feelings of pride at being able to do something on their own, and they constantly look for approval and support from those around them. Physically, toddlers begin to develop their motor skills. They learn how to walk, they learn how to climb, but parents and caregivers must be vigilant since falls are very common with toddlers. Socially, toddlers are still very much in their own world. They may play beside children, but not with children. And they start to be independent and want to do things for themselves, but they also look to others for approval. And this is when they learn that some behavior is acceptable and some isn't. Now we're going to be looking at preschoolers. So from ages 3 to 5, children master the basics of movement, communication, and simple reciprocal social relationships. Emotionally, preschoolers begin to learn empathy. They control their own feelings and understand others' feelings. And verbal skills help children talk about their fears and feelings in a mature way. Socially, preschoolers constantly seek out other children for cooperative play, and they begin to make friends and may even have their best friend finally, and they also learn how to share and work through problems with others. Preschoolers are very concerned with fairness, and they understand the impact of how others react to their behavior. And physically, they're much more in control of their bodies. They begin to take on more complex tasks, such as riding a bike or using scissors to cut paper. Intellectually, they begin to learn letters and numbers, and they have a very rigid understanding of rules and the concept of right and wrong. So now we're going to be looking at school-age children. From ages 5 to 10, children begin applying their abilities to learning the behaviors which are specific to their environment. Physically, school-age children continue to grow, but at a much slower rate. So fine motor skills are developed to enable detailed writing and drawing, and baby teeth are usually replaced by permanent teeth. Emotionally, their focus shifts from feelings of fear to concerns about success, and they're constantly anxious to please others, and they often worry about being good academically. Intellectually, they are developing their reasoning and inquiry skills. They spend more time thinking about how things work and why things happen. And they learn that in all areas is extremely important because they are increasing greatly at this stage. School-age children socially begin to choose relationships with friends, and they participate in more activities with peers outside of the home. They begin to take some responsibility for their own behavior and are more sensitive and concerned with the feelings of others. Also, it allows them to understand the reasons behind rules and guidelines. This also is a sign of children beginning to develop a conscience. What exactly is the nature versus nurture debate? Well, some theorists argue that heredity plays a key role in the way an individual turns out. But others believe that the environment plays a much bigger role in human development. So, the goals in caring for children is that parents and other caregivers can create environments for children which enrich their development. Their own value system will determine priorities, and families may value social skills highly and focus on developing social skills in their children at an early age. If they emphasize on academics instead, that can be used instead of social skills, but there can always be a balance. So the roles of the parents is the socialization of the child. Through guidance provided by parents, children learn the knowledge and behaviors which are expected. However, you are entitled to being yourself. But the child's safety is the number one priority. For example, child-proofing, removing any hazards are very important in ensuring a child's well-being, because children lack judgment skills for the most part. So fostering intellectual, emotional, and social development are also important in the overall care of a child. It's important to be a positive role model by demonstrating appropriate behavior. Children often learn by seeing and emulating the behaviors of others. Physically, you have to make sure that all baby gates are locked to block off the stairs and other potentially dangerous areas. Also, hot or sharp items must not be left where toddlers can reach them. Intellectually, you must provide eye contact and facial movements to stimulate the brain. Try and smile more. Make sounds to keep the child engaged. Make them laugh. Socially, you must support toddlers in their effort to do things for themselves. Let them help with lunch and snack preparations. Let them clean up their own mess. Make sure that you model acceptable behavior. Also, emotionally, you must encourage them and support their successes. Praise them and talk to them about how they are doing in school. Now we're going to talk about connecting the brain to child development. Before birth, The brain forms millions of cells called neurons, which are determined by heredity. And then the brain works by making connections and communicating internally. Neurons make connections to send and receive impulses from one another. The more stimulation the brain gets, the more connections are formed. And as the process develops, one neuron can link to thousands of others. The more connections that are made, the better the brain works. So children are able to learn other skills such as creativity, reasoning, and problem solving. And effective parenting can help make these brain connections. So providing the child with both stimulation and security, talking to the child, playing games, and giving affection helps the child's mind grow. Babies need a lot of human contact. Babies who are rarely held develop brains that are 20 to 30% smaller than normal for their age. But you can't spoil an infant by responding to his or her needs. Crying newborns who receive a quick, warm response usually learn to cry much less and sleep more at night. "75% of human brain development comes after birth, and human brains are dependent on the environmental input. By age 3, a child's brain is twice as active as an adult's, and as a child reacts to stimulation, new connections are formed in the brain for the first 3 years. And if the child feels secure, their brain absorbs better information. So now I'm going